The room was filled with soft chatter, polite smiles, and the quiet tension that always comes with hope, the kind of hope that sits heavy in the chest. It was adoption day. Families walked around, some excited, some nervous, all searching for a connection that could change their lives forever. Colorful banners hung across the hall, and volunteers moved from table to table, guiding conversations that could turn strangers into family. But in the far corner of the room, away from the hopeful energy, sat a little girl who didn't seem to belong to any of it. She was small, maybe 5 or 6, wearing a simple blue dress and a slightly oversized red cardigan. Her hands were clasped tightly against her chest, as if she was holding herself together. Her eyes, wide, tired, and quietly searching, moved from one family to another. Every time someone passed by without stopping, her shoulders sank just a little more. She didn't cry. She didn't call out. She had already learned something most adults struggle with: sometimes, silence hurts more than rejection. Across the room stood a man who didn't look like he needed anything from anyone. He was dressed simply but elegantly, his posture calm, his expression unreadable. People would never guess he was a millionaire. He didn't arrive with a crowd, no assistance, no attention. He came quietly, like he did everything else in life. His name wasn't important to anyone there. But his presence would soon become unforgettable to one person. He had been walking around, observing, not rushing into conversations like others. He watched families meet children, saw smiles, heard laughter. But something kept pulling his attention back to that corner. To her. The little girl who wasn't trying anymore. He finally walked toward her. He didn't rush. He didn't speak immediately. He simply sat down on the empty chair beside her, lowering himself to her level. For a moment, there was only silence between them. Not awkward silence, gentle silence. Taking the child from her arms, checking him quickly. The woman collapsed onto the wet ground, her strength finally giving out. No one knew her name. No one asked. For a moment, she was just another face in the crowd again. But everything changed minutes later. Black cars pulled up, sleek and out of place among the chaos. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out, his expression filled with panic. He pushed through the crowd, his voice desperate as he called out for his son. When he saw the boy, alive, safe, his entire world seemed to stop. Relief flooded his face as he rushed forward, pulling the child into his arms. "Who saved him?" he demanded, his voice shaking. The firefighters pointed toward the woman sitting quietly on the curb, her head lowered, trying to steady her breathing. The man turned, his eyes locking onto her. For a moment, he simply stared, as if trying to understand how someone the world had ignored had just saved everything he cared about. He walked toward her slowly, each step filled with emotion he couldn't quite contain. She looked up, unsure, almost ready to apologize for something she hadn't done wrong. But instead, he stopped in front of her and said something no one expected: "You saved my son, you saved my entire world." Tears welled in his eyes, something he hadn't allowed himself in years. The crowd fell silent, sensing something powerful unfolding. The woman shook her head slightly, as if to say it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. The man knelt down, ignoring his expensive suit getting dirty on the wet ground, and asked her name. She hesitated, as if the question itself felt unfamiliar. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, almost lost in the noise of sirens and crackling flames. And in that moment, something shifted, not just in his life, but in hers too. Because sometimes, the people the world forgets are the ones who remind us what humanity truly looks like. And as the fire slowly died down behind them, he turned to her, his expression steady, certain. "Yes, Lily. You." Tears filled her eyes, but this time, they weren't from sadness. Her small hands, the same ones that had been clutched in fear, slowly reached out. He didn't hesitate. He held them. And in that moment, everything changed. Not because he was a millionaire. Not because he could give her a big house or expensive things. But because he saw her. When no one else did. The paperwork took time. There were questions, checks, confirmations. But he didn't leave. Not once. He stayed beside her through it all. And when it was finally done, Lily walked out of that hall not as the girl no one chose, but as the girl who was chosen with certainty. As they stepped outside, she looked up at him. "Why did you pick me?" she asked. He paused for a second, then smiled. "I didn't pick you," he said. "I found you." That night, for the first time in a long time, Lily didn't feel alone. And somewhere in the world, a quiet man who had everything finally found something that truly mattered. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this remind us, sometimes, one simple moment of kindness can change an entire life.